The following podcast was birthed from the psychological loins of two mediocre men. This asshole. And this morose motherfucker. It represents minutes of actual work and a few microvolts of cerebral energy. The agenda is to make you motherfuckers woke. Now let's light this candle.
All right, so a lot on our list today, a lot on the agenda. The first thing looks like
we even have breaking news for the first time, although it
Breaking.
won't be breaking news by the time you're listening to this, but it's breaking news to us.
Yeah, I just read
we're
the
recording it.
CNN article about it, and it's kind of sparse information. It gives a general idea of what happened.
Yeah, 3 killed, 25 injured.
Yeah.
One article I read said they all had head injuries. I don't know how they determined that.
Well, it sounds like the drone, they're calling it, hit a housing unit. So either they got really lucky or they had really good intel.
Yeah. Well, anyway, in case we're being a little vague, 3 U.S. service members were killed in Jordan today. What is it, the 28th of January? And the Biden called them an Iranian-backed terrorist organization, I think, backed by Iran.
It came out of Syria, so it came from Syria, apparently.
Right. But, I mean, we didn't immediately start bombing Syria and Iran, so I guess that's good, because that's what... I don't know if that's what they're trying to get us to do. I mean, they have to know attacking U.S. commercial ships under U.S. flag in the Red Sea or wherever is different than attacking U.S. troops on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if they're trying to goad us into a war, like an actual war, so that other Arab countries can fight together against us, or if they're just not that smart. But...
Well, there will be a military response. There's no question about that. But there
will. It'll just be cruise missiles or maybe airstrikes on some camps.
Yeah,
so
it'll be
full blown.
It'll be surgical and symbolic for the most part.
Exactly.
But you mentioned in the outline, the fact that this happened in Jordan, and maybe we shouldn't have been there. Just a piece of trivia: when I started my contracting job with AFSOC, that was where they were going to send me, was to Jordan. And I protested. I said, first of all, I didn't interview for it in that regard, and no, so take that off the contract. But that was 2017.
I've never had the pleasure of visiting the Middle East, even though I was on active duty during our big war in Iraq.
Yeah,
the second Iraq war with the second Bush. But I was in Korea at the time, and so that's considered a deployment in itself, even though it's a permanent duty station, so they don't deploy you from there. So I got lucky in that regard.
Yeah.
But I never had to visit the sandbox. But my life today is different. I wouldn't want to go there. I kind of did back then, but since then I've learned a lot, and I have no interest in fighting any of our government's wars ever.
I want to look really quick and just see what Jordan is saying about this, since this happened on Jordanian soil, and if Jordan is making any comments about it. I've got Al Jazeera pulled up.
Jordan is definitely the most friendly with the West Arab nation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So, I mean, I think their king is even American educated.
Yeah, as was his wife.
Right. So they're definitely, they're not going to criticize us for anything, probably.
This is a complete side note, but his wife is smoking hot.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
I'll put a graphic up on
I have seen pictures of her before. I am aware of that. Was she a movie star or something? I can't remember. That was his mom, right?
Yeah.
His mom was a movie star.
I can't remember what she was before becoming queen, but she's stunning. Yeah, the only thing Jordan is officially saying is just basic condemnation. So I don't know. None of it's good. It's just
it's just an escalation that we don't need. And my dog wants some attention, so here he is.
Boy. Yes. He's a good boy.
It's the first time I've opened my mouth today, probably. So he's like, "Hey, he's talking. He must be talking to me because I don't see anyone else here." Yep, no one else is here, but I'm filming my podcast, bud. We do this every Sunday. All right.
So moving on, you mentioned something about Secretary Mayorkas and his impeachment. I looked that up after you sent that to me, and Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, so I guess the committee that's trying to impeach him is going to vote on whether to move forward with those articles this coming week. But they released the verbiage of them, and there's nothing. There's no evidence, no actual allegations, just general, whatever. This is wrong, so we're impeaching you.
Well, they're gonna try to tie it. They're gonna try to tie it into everything that's going on in Texas,
right?
But
Dexter, get off of me.
Riddle me this: we've got this massive border incursion problem happening, right? Right. Why the fuck is it only happening in Texas? Why aren't Arizona, New Mexico, and California losing their minds over this?
I don't know. It's a good question. I do know there's towns in Texas that are essentially, the town itself is on both sides of the border.
Yeah.
And I don't know if any other states have it like that.
True.
So there's definitely populations closer to the Texas border, Mexican populations, I mean, closer to the Texas border than there are to other borders, at least as far as I'm aware. But I don't have a lot of experience with geography out west, so I don't know what California, New Mexico, and Arizona are all like on the borders. But I did see a video on TikTok yesterday of a guy in Texas, or trying to get into Texas. He was an American who had been in Mexico and was trying to get back into Texas. And he was in this huge ass line at a checkpoint. And he's like, "Can you guys tell me where this open border is? Because I've been standing in this line for 45 minutes and I want to go home."
Yeah, that propaganda is just fucking getting old. I'm so tired of it. There's no.
So I know they're swimming across the Rio Grande. That's the open border part. The Rio Grande, they swim across it. Yeah, that's where the razor wire is that's entrapping them and drowning them. That the federal government wants to remove. The Supreme Court said they could.
Yeah.
And Abbott said, "Fuck you. I am king of Texas. I can do whatever I want."
Well, okay. So
I don't understand how you have National Guard soldiers, though, standing up against federal.
Precisely.
I don't understand what's going on in those soldiers' minds or the commanders of those units, because their chain of command, yes, National Guard troops are controlled by governors, but in their headquarters building, on their chain of command, there are people above the governor, and one of them's the president.
Yeah.
They still fall under the Secretary of the Army, the Secretary of Defense, and the president. So how is that even happening? Why has Biden not said, "Get the National Guard out of my way"?
I heard a snippet of an explanation, because there is Texas, in the case of Texas, there's a Texas National Guard, and then there's a Texas State Guard. And so when I went to get more information about this, I looked it up to make sure that these guys that are in the standoff with Border Patrol are not Texas State Guard, because then the feds would have almost no jurisdiction against them. They are Texas National Guard. And then what I have heard is that there is some mechanism for either the Secretary of the Army or POTUS to activate those individuals under the direction of the federal government.
Yeah, I mean, National Guard units get deployed to overseas wars all the time.
Right, but that at this point, those National Guard units have not been activated for anything on the federal level. They have been activated by Greg Abbott.
Right, but that's my point. Biden could, with a stroke of a pen, say, "You now are federalized. Get out of the way," and he didn't. So I don't get that.
I think
He's not doing that.
Well, that's got to be a purely political mitigation strategy, because if he were to do that, it's an escalation over and over and over again.
And I mean, one article I read said that it's not that it's still the Supreme Court didn't actually rule anything. They just kicked it back down to the lower court again, and said the lower court had already decided that the Border Patrol could remove that razor wire,
Mm-hmm.
and then it got appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court kicked it back down. So I don't understand how that's not ruling something, because the lower court would have to change what it already ruled on to change it to something else.
But it is, because it's ruling that the lower court's opinion stands. That's the ruling.
Yeah. Right. That's how I interpret it too. But some article I read by some lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't really know how all this works, but he said it's not treason yet, I guess, is what he was saying.
Well, here's
for defying the order.
Treason against Biden and the Biden administration, right?
Abbott.
Oh, okay. Well, wait a second, because I'm going to make a prediction, and we can follow up on this next week, because I'm sure it'll come to a head by then. If Biden were to exercise control over those National Guard troops and tell them to, don't tell them to stand down, tell them to get their ass in the fucking river and dismantle that wire. Tell them to do it. What I predict Abbott will do, and Abbott doesn't really need to do anything with regard to this, but take the counties that those razor wires are set up on, El Paso County and the other counties. The state level thinking with regard to law enforcement is that the local sheriffs have superseding powers over everything. So that who would be standing against the National Guard troops if Biden empowered them to remove that razor wire? It would become the local sheriffs. So you'd have a standoff
and probably some of the population. A lot of civilians in Texas have a lot of guns and like to
no question
consider themselves
those
vigilantes and stuff. So
the sheriffs of those counties would deputize people left and right. And it would be a standoff between the sheriffs and their deputies against the federal government at that point. I predict that's what it'll be. But I think that what's going to happen is this whole thing will fizzle out, and there won't be any kind of standoff. I think that's most likely.
This ties in. It's also on the list. But the other thing, there was a border agreement that Mitch McConnell and the Democrats in the Senate worked out. And according to Mitch McConnell, I haven't read the agreement, but according to Mitch McConnell, the Democrats conceded way more to the Republicans than they ever have in any negotiation about the border before.
But is that the package that the Speaker of the House is saying is dead on arrival?
Yes. Because Trump said, don't pass that bill. Wait until I get elected, and then we'll pass a bill that I like.
It'll be the same bill. It'll be the same bill.
It's not that he doesn't want the bill passed because he wants a different bill. It's that he doesn't want it passed so that it remains an election point.
Yeah.
During the election.
Yep.
It remains something that he can complain about to the base when he's, running in November. That's 100%. Why he doesn't want any problem solved. That's why he's made public statements that he wants the economy to crash.
Yep.
He wants terrorist attacks to happen. He wants all this stuff to happen between now and November to make himself look better. He's on microphone saying that shit. What American says that? I want the economy to crash so I can get more votes.
And the people that support him are hearing those words, and they are 100% on board with what he's saying.
I know. It's insane.
Have a problem with that idea.
So insane.
We are fucked. It literally gets worse every fucking week. Oh God.
Maybe I feel the same way as you, and it creeps into my daily life where I just get depressed about the dystopia we live in. Maybe we should change our podcast to I don't know, what's going on with Taylor Swift podcast or something, so we don't have to be so depressed all the time.
The algorithm might like us better if we do that too. Fuck.
Well, this is what we're passionate about, so that's why we're here, right?
Yeah, and so the MAGA crowd, God, the amount of noise on social media from the right about, oh, it's here, the civil war we've been waiting for is here. And I see all these goofy fucking comparisons about, how many guns are owned by each person in the states that have pledged, whatever this means, support for Texas and Texas's agenda with the border. And they're comparing that. They're saying that alone means we've already won. And
okay, look, right-wing idiots have brought guns to fights with the federal government before. They did it in Waco. They did it at Ruby Ridge.
yeah,
they didn't win.
no, and they aren't going to win when you scale it up. It doesn't get better for them. Oh God.
So I don't know. I won't miss if some right-wing Texas idiots want to try to stand up to the Border Patrol or the Federalized National Guard. I'm all for it. I won't miss them one bit.
Yep. Let's light this candle. Oh my God. All right, let's move out to the Middle East again.
Okay.
Or to South Africa. I watched and it was a lengthy thing to watch, the adjudication of what they heard in the South African case. They basically, I found this interesting because some people got initially upset that there was no mention of a ceasefire in the ICJ's ruling. I think it's extremely important that there was no mention of a ceasefire in the ICJ's ruling, because what that does is it maintains the Palestinians' right to resistance of an occupation. A ceasefire would mean they cannot resist and Israel cannot continue to shoot at them. The absence of that and what they said was Israel needs to cease, and they defined all of the actions that Israel has taken that amount to genocide. Stop it. No ceasefire, which gives the Palestinians the ability to continue doing what they are entitled to do, which I think is a good thing. But it didn't seem to meet a lot of people's expectations. But you have to sort of slow down and pull it apart to individual pieces to understand how that's going to work. Now, that translates directly into the ICC suing the Biden administration for aiding and abetting in genocide. And I watched the ICC attorneys confront the DOJ attorneys in the depositions for that case this morning. And it's fascinating because the ICC attorneys are not taking what Israel is doing in Gaza and the U.S. support of that as being the basis for their case. They actually have intel on what was communicated between the United States and Israel that amounts to clear advocation and support of genocidal activities. This isn't what Israel did with that information. This is what the United States instructed them to do in this process. And when they outlined that in that deposition I saw this morning, the DOJ attorney that was there representing the Biden administration didn't have a fucking word to say. She had no words. And I thought,
yeah. Well, I mean, make no mistake, the only reason why there were troops killed in Jordan today, American troops, and why we have naval forces in the Red Sea and all that, is because we're 100% enabling Israel. We're there to prevent the other Arab countries from standing up to Israel. That's it.
Yep.
That's why we're there. And you know what? Here's an interesting thing. Earlier in the week, I think it was this week, where the director of the CIA went over to Israel to negotiate with Hamas and Israel a peace thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently, Hamas was willing to release all the hostages they currently have in exchange for a ceasefire.
Mm-hmm.
And Israel said no.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck?
Yeah. It brings me back to, and by the way, last week's episode is still in the can because I just got finished doing this day shift shit, and so it'll happen.
Are you sure? I thought I saw it up there. Maybe
no.
not.
That would be weird if it did. Fuck. Now I forgot what I was going to say. What was the point you just made?
That Israel declined the peace agreement.
Yeah. This is just going to continue until Israel starts building hotels and spas on the beaches in Gaza.
There's no doubt about it. And they're I don't know who he is. minister of something or other, Israel's, today for the second time said on Israeli television that Israel should drop a nuke on Gaza. Said it for the second time.
Then nobody gets to use it. They will poison it for everyone.
People still live in Hiroshima.
Jesus fucking Christ. So after the ICJ ruling came down, ironically, a couple days later, I think it was a day later, that the US, the UK, Germany, and a couple other countries decided to pull funds from the United Nations Relief Fund.
Right.
Just right out from under them. And tell me,
and the cover story was because maybe up to a dozen or so of their staff members were somehow involved in the October
7th. October
7th attacks. Well, that organization came out today and said they're going to investigate that, and if that's true, they're going to deal with those people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that organization has hundreds of aid workers working for them. And if a small portion of them, I mean, that's the equivalent of withdrawing all federal funds from Texas because Greg Abbott's a fucking treasonous asshole, right? That's the equivalent. We don't do that. So yeah. And why is it only the English-speaking countries, pretty much? Well, France, I guess, was in there too, right? What is the UK and Canada and the US?
Germany.
And who else?
Germany.
Oh.
It's all NATO countries.
All right. Well, just so our listeners are clear, this organization we're talking about, their mission is to provide aid to Gaza. That's what they do. They are the organization that does that. They'll take foreign aid and deliver it to Gaza.
Not only Gaza, but anywhere.
Well, right. But you're right.
13,000 staff. Now, wait a second. The United Nations Relief Agency provided the names of 13,000 staff for investigation. That's a fraction. 13,000 is a fraction of the number of people that work for the relief agency. So it's hundreds of thousands of people around the globe that work for this agency.
And I think the accusation is that it was maybe a dozen, right?
Mm-hmm.
That are bad apples.
Yeah. It stinks to high heaven that they would do this. It's almost like the not using bombs to destroy relief agencies like Israel's doing, but we're just going to defund them. We'll take them. We'll take the foundation out from under their feet while you level their buildings. Oh fuck.
So tell me again why I have to vote for Joe Biden in November.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I'm going to be honest with you. I am not certain that that if Trump is the nominee, that Biden is going to win. I am not certain about that at all.
I don't think he will.
Because he is doing a lot. He is alienating a lot of people with this response to Israel's genocide. A lot. I mean, I don't want to vote for him right now. I still think I would. If it's him and Trump, I think I would, because a Trump presidency would be pretty disastrous, a second Trump presidency. But, I mean, I really don't want to. I really don't want to.
Are you in a swing state?
Yeah, Pennsylvania, swing state.
I'm in Florida, bro.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter who you vote for. Florida used to be a swing state. What happened?
I know. It was... Well, when Bush Gore, it was a swing state. It was one of those hanging Chad states.
Right.
Jesus fucking Christ.
But I mean, there was been a Democratic governor in Florida within the last decade.
Yeah. It's all the retiring boomers that move here and fuck everything up.
Yeah. I keep trying to get my parents to vote in Florida rather than Pennsylvania because they're not left as fuck like we are, but they're definitely not Republicans, and they hate Trump.
Well,
so
speaking
DeSantis
of,
too. I'm like, go get rid of DeSantis. Go vote in Florida because they spend 6 months in each place. They could register to vote in either one. But
speaking of retiring boomers, the nitrogen execution in Alabama.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to find a video because I'm sure there's a video out there somewhere. But I did read a description of it and it sounded horrific.
What I don't
then-
understand is why didn't they use a sedative along with the nitrogen gas?
Because I'm pretty sure they're just trying to torture people at this point.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Let's just be honest about it.
That's just, they don't give a fuck. That's the thing. There's dehumanization of people, including, I mean, it's the right wingers tend to dehumanize anyone that's different from them. And it started with criminals, but now, they dehumanize gays and trans people and minorities and everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That way they don't feel so bad when they do things like fucking suffocate them by taking the oxygen out of their air. So I did read that this used to be the way they used to euthanize pets, but it's fallen out of favor with veterinarians because it's considered too cruel to the pets. But it's okay to use on humans in Alabama.
It's a option that's used also in physician-assisted suicide, but they use it in a manner where, see, the thing is that you only exhibit the gasping reflex when there's a buildup of carbon dioxide. Your body doesn't know that it's breathing in oxygen or nitrogen. It doesn't react any differently until there's a buildup of carbon dioxide. So if they didn't remove the carbon dioxide that he was exhaling, then his body would have started doing what they described.
But do you turn nitrogen? I mean, the air is mostly nitrogen.
Yeah, but when you get above like 95% or something, then it displaces enough oxygen that there's no oxygen available for your body. But your body doesn't know that. And you just slip.
But you don't convert nitrogen into carbon dioxide. You convert oxygen into carbon dioxide, right?
True, but then what is nitrogen?
I don't know, but they said nitrogen's a noble element. It's by itself. It's not. It's just N on the periodic table.
Yeah, I guess you're right. So you'd be exhaling nitrogen the way that you're inhaling it.
Yeah.
And it's just
your cells would die. But they said they said he was convulsing and stuff because he was holding his breath. Because he knew he was breathing in nitrogen and was trying not to die. Because, I mean, who the fuck wants to die? Not very many people. I mean, some people do. I have once or twice in my life. But
yeah,
we should put up that hotline.
Yeah. It's highly sus that they didn't use any sedative at all to prevent that from happening. That it just seems it seems very
I don't
obvious.
get it. Yes, there are whatever they give you when you're having surgery that knocks you out. Just give you too much of that.
Propofol, yeah.
You'll die.
Yeah.
And it won't hurt. You won't even feel it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't know why there's I think three or four states that are allowing nitrogen asphyxiation now. And it's because the other 3-drug cocktail that is most popular is sometimes difficult to get because they don't manufacture a lot of it.
Well, no, I think the manufacturers said because it's being used for that, we're not going to make it available to them. So they can't stop manufacturing nitrogen. It's just going to be there. Yeah, that's all fucked up.
They could use carbon monoxide too. That's not you still asphyxiate, but don't you pass out first and you don't really feel it, right?
That's dodgy.
Is it?
Because you can survive it, you're going to be a very different person. You can survive it though. And it's I don't know. It's toxic. Nitrogen's not toxic. That's the thing. Yeah.
What's your stance on capital punishment anyway? Do you have a hard stance on that?
Or? I don't. I have not formed an opinion about it because I am staunchly death with dignity. And I know that has nothing to do with capital punishment, but it does have to do with terminating human life. I understand the usual leftist argument about capital punishment in that you're giving the state control over life and death, and just in general, that is contrary to what's supposed to be our values.
I don't have a hard stance on it either. I don't know. I don't like capital punishment. First of all, I am 100% certain it's been applied on innocent people.
That's the
And
argument. Yeah.
that I don't like. There needs to be a higher standard where you can be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. To be sentenced to death, it has to be beyond all doubt, in my opinion. And it's not. So innocent people have absolutely been put to death. And that is not right.
And disproportionately people of color, minorities.
Yeah. But also, I don't know. I've only ever spent a weekend in jail. I've never been to prison, but I would probably rather get executed than spend life in a cage. So if you're trying to punish people, how is the execution better than locking them up forever?
But then you have the argument about you have to then pay for this person's existence for the next 25, 30, 40 years or longer.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to pay for all the appeals process and stuff where you're trying to kill them for 20 years too.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't know. Plus, money's never a good enough excuse, because when they want money for something, they have it. It's just they only complain about money when it's something they don't really want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, the government has never said, oh, we don't have any money for these missiles that we want to lob at brown people. They never said that, ever. They want to start a war, they have the money. They want to, billions and billions and billions of dollars they'll send to Ukraine, which I'm happy for, and Israel, which I'm not happy for. And yet, if you want, $5 billion to end homelessness, no, we can't do that. That's too much money.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You've seen the videos of the guys who serve homeless people meals on the streets in, I think it's New York, and they've accumulated.
Were they getting arrested?
No, just citations, thousands of citations. It doesn't stop them, and I applaud them for that. They continue to go out, and it's the same two fucking cops every time that come and issue these citations to these guys. We're on citation number 784, and the guy's like, and he writes out the citation and leaves, and then they have to show up in court. I think some of them have been dismissed, but why all of them haven't been dismissed? Why is it criminal to feed people? I don't fucking understand it. And they do it under the guise of food safety, right? You have to get a permit, and we got to determine that, which is bullshit.
It's bullshit. Absolutely is bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's criminal in some jurisdictions to have like a garden in your own yard.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You can't do that because that might hurt the profits of the grocery stores. So you can't do that. Oof. It's always to protect corporate interests and screw over the people. That's the entire foundation of the United States, is protect corporations and screw over the people. That's the entire existence of it. So we can't vote our way out of it.
Unfortunately. There's got to be
something else.
Well, it does. It's going to take a massive collapse. And I made this point in a post a few days ago that, because I saw people confused what I was talking about in this with BlackRock. It's Blackstone, which is a hedge management company. The CEO or CFO of Blackstone was sweating because he's seeing signs that they're not going to do very well and blah, 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 blah. And I made the point that when the people with the power and the money in this country are sweating because their own self-interests are in danger, we're on the right fucking track.
Several months ago, maybe even a year or two ago, some group of rich fucks sent out a letter to their membership of other rich fucks telling them that they should back off on some of their policies that are harmful to the people. It was particularly, it was during the pandemic when they were raising prices on everything. Some group sent out a letter that was leaked saying that they should back off a little bit on that, because if they make the people too mad, they might pick up sticks. That's what the letter said. And I'm like, well, I wish if we could get, how many people do you think we would need to march on Washington to not like the Jan 6 people did, not with attacking people, but just surround the Capitol with how many people to get them to change their policy? How many people do you think we need?
There aren't enough people. There is no number that is going to cause them to
no
do
number?
that. No.
Yeah.
Because we know that whatever policies and things that are important to us are never important to the people we elect to represent our interests. It's smoke and mirrors. So you could put the entire population of the United States in and around DC and let that go out in concentric circles and nothing would change.
I've been having a hard time with both of my senators, one of whom I donated a lot of money to, not a lot, but a lot for me during his campaign, John Fetterman and Bob Casey. I follow them both on Twitter, and they both are definitely taking money from AIPAC because they're gobbling Netanyahu's balls.
Yeah, they're not going to stop
on Twitter. And I have to reply to them every time. Like, I'm not voting for you if this is your stance. Just not.
Until it winds up with them losing their seat, they will never listen to those words and take
heed. And the problem is we need them to lose their seat in the primary. We need better candidates to run against them in the primaries, and we need people to vote in the primaries. The primaries are more important than general elections at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the general election, you're picking between an AIPAC supported Democrat and an AIPAC supported Republican, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But in the primaries, you might have someone that's not quite so, sold out already.
Yep.
And you gotta show up and vote in the primaries. You have to. And we need better candidates because too often there's not anybody. There's just one person.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's just two people, but they're both equally bad.
Mm-hmm.
We need younger people. We need more people. I would love the day that I go to vote in my primary for, say, a Senate seat, and I'm voting on the Democrat primary, and there's like 12 people to choose from. I would love that.
Mm-hmm.
There never is. It's 2, maybe 3.
Yep.
Sometimes just 1. And that is not I don't think that's how this was designed to be. I think there's supposed to be lots of candidates.
Well, on the federal level, at least with regard to POTUS, there was talk about it earlier in the year about the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, that there are a certain number of states that are fully signed on to that right now, and that it doesn't become activated where we ignore the Electoral College until there are enough states that the popular vote would swing it for any candidate.
Yeah, so you need 207 electoral votes worth of states signed up for it, right?
And we're at 161. There's 161 that electoral votes that exist within the states that have signed on to this compact. I think that's one of the bright sides of what's going to come out of this election. I think that the election in November is going to be such a clusterfuck of epic proportions that there are going to be enough other states that decide we don't want any fucking part of this again, that they sign on to the compact. And then that begins to shift things, at least for the office of the presidency, which I think is still important. But if the Electoral College can be made irrelevant, that's a huge change. And this is the only path that we have for that right now. And I think that the election in November is going to be so fucking awful. The outcome, the results, and the aftermath of it is going to be so awful, no matter who it is that gets elected, that there are going to be enough states that say enough is enough. Because we'll look at the popular vote numbers, and they will represent something other than what the Electoral College is going to represent, without a doubt. So hopefully that's what comes out of this. If we're looking for something good to come out of the shit coming in this year.
Well, if the popular vote numbers don't support or differ from the Electoral College, then that means Trump won, because that's how Republicans win. They win through the Electoral College.
Yeah. Yep. Speaking of Trump, has he said anything since the new ruling for the additional $83 million? I don't think so.
I don't know either. All my phones are ringing. Probably my dad, because I sent him the text about the my son. I'm gonna call him back though.
I saw yesterday somebody commenting on the fact that as of yesterday he hasn't spoken at all about it. So, and Elena, what's Hobbs or Hobbs? What the fuck is his attorney?
Haba. Elena Haba.
She's going to appeal this. There's no winning that appeal.
The $83 million.
There's just no, on the basis of the facts of the case, there's no winning an appeal on this.
No, but doesn't she have another case against him too for the stuff he said after the first time? The first case that
I don't know. To be honest, I can't. There's so many concentric circles to this. I can't keep up with it.
So she had the 2 suits against him. She had the initial one, which was, the sexual assault. Mm-hmm. Then there was the defamation for all the stuff he said about her. Mm-hmm. But then during the sexual assault lawsuit, he said more stuff about her. And I thought they sued him again for that, which may come up in another few months, and it may be more.
Yeah, I don't think she has. There's no reason why she shouldn't hold him accountable every time he drags her name through the fucking mud. And she's shown herself willing to do that, and I applaud her for that. Rudy Giuliani is bitching and whining that Trump owes him undisclosed amounts of money for representing him. Fuck Rudy.
Yeah.
Fuck Rudy. I couldn't care less if he winds up in a fucking homeless shelter somewhere.
It's crazy.
Yeah, what's her name? Eugene Carroll is gonna. Somebody said that she should go to Mar-a-Lago, start walking through Mar-a-Lago, and point at things and say, "This is mine. This is mine. This is mine."
Well, I mean, if he doesn't learn how to shut his fucking mouth, she can just keep suing him because he said more stuff about her after this verdict.
Well, I don't think so, though. I think that's where we're waiting for him to say something stupid. But he's been refraining.
Or maybe it was during the trial he said stuff.
Oh yeah. And I don't know if that stuff was immediately brought in as additional evidence for that case, or if they are going to hold that for later. But he's fucking, and he's rotting. Have you seen him? He's rotting.
He's using extra makeup, so I don't know what he's covering up. He's covering something up.
Somebody posted.
He's not a healthy dude. Oh, did you see the list of medicine?
I was just
Ronnie Jackson.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Took out when he was the White House doctor. Holy shit.
I was looking at that post trying to find some provenance for it. To see where did this come from? What does it represent? It's a list of drugs and dates and names, but what is it? Where did it come from? Whose document is this?
I don't know, but if it's real, which I don't know that it is.
Yeah, it's like
but it's funny, someone said I think it was on TikTok, like, I don't know who was taking all these drugs. And then there was a stitch that said, I do. And it was a picture of Paul Gosar sitting in the House chamber. Cause you know how he twitches and like moves weird. Like he's on fucking cocaine all the time. Mm-hmm. It's like, I think it was him. But yeah, I don't know if it's real or not. I mean, there was nothing egregious on there, but there were a lot like ketamine and, amphetamines, all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
But you do also have that, I forget his name, but that Republican from North Carolina was in a wheelchair. I can't remember his name. He only did one term and then he got voted out.
Yeah, one of the key MAGA douchebags.
Yeah, but he said when he was leaving that they're all on drugs all the time, having all these drug-fueled parties.
Oh, that's right. Well,
that list sure looked like a list of party drugs to me. I mean, there were real drugs on there, but there were quite a few party drugs on there.
Yeah. So
I don't know. That'd be interesting if that could be proven to be real. I don't believe it has, but
I think it's highly plausible, and we can use that to draw our own conclusions. There's no reason to doubt this. There's no reason.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's the world in a nutshell for this week.
Yeah. Oh, do you want to talk about the girl that had the Freudian slip? I'm sure you saw her.
I don't know. I had mixed feelings about that because when I saw the clip, she looks to me like a child. Like a 15, 16-year-old child.
I don't know.
And for that reason, I left it alone because.
All right, we'll leave it alone.
I saw. Never mind. I think she's a kid, and she's a stupid kid. But The way that the people, the way that the people started laughing when she said using other genocides, and then the light went off in her head. I'm like, fuck, dude.
Well, we could talk about the scenario though. That was in Burlington, Vermont.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, where
I
they
didn't know that.
they were the city council or whatever had introduced a bill to adopt basically a pro-Palestinian stance as a city
Okay.
council.
Yeah.
And they wanted to I guess they have a system there where you can get anything put on the ballot if you get enough signatures, enough petition signatures, and they got all the signatures to put it on the ballot. But then the city council was like, wait a minute, this is controversial. I don't know if we should just put it on the ballot. We should let the public come and talk about it. And that's where you saw that girl speaking. She was talking at that meeting of the city council. Well, and then in the end, the city council decided not to put it on the ballot. So
really, yikes. Well,
so no, just to be clear, it wasn't to adopt that policy. It was to put adopting that policy on a ballot in the future for the people to vote on. So it's pretty anti-democratic to get the petitions that are required and then have it. No, never mind. We're not going to do that.
Yeah, Vermont is a very you want to talk about black and white, that the two ways of thinking in Vermont are either very, very liberal or they're very, very conservative. There was when I moved to Vermont in 2001, it was during the period where the whole civil unions thing was just getting decided. And there was a movement in Vermont, it's probably still there, called Take Back Vermont. And it was all these Tea Party right wingers that there were Take Back Vermont signs in their yards and shit. And you are either the Bernie Sanders type living in Vermont or you are the Newt Gingrich type living in Vermont. There's very little middle ground. It's a very divided state.
Well, Burlington is where Bernie Sanders was mayor. So
right, in Burlington was where those two Palestinian kids got shot about a month or so ago. Remember that in the middle of the night?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was in Burlington. That's why I was shocked that they wouldn't have allowed this to become.
You're too heavy. You're not a lapdog, bud.
He is. Yeah, it's a very.
He's 80 pounds, man.
He's a good boy. Oh my God, he loves you. He's a good dog.
He is a good dog. He knows he got a package from Amazon today, and he knows he did.
Yep.
Because he can smell it, but I didn't open it yet, and I think he's asking me to open it for him.
Yeah, my dog used to get Bark Box packages, and she would know immediately that it was a Bark Box package, and she'd tear it open herself. But all right, let's call it a wrap.
All right, James, it was nice talking to you again.
Hey, we did it in 51 minutes. I told you we'd be close to that. Wasn't too much longer.
Nice, and you're gonna have to cut out some stuff.
Little bits. All right, dude. Have a good week, and I will see you next weekend.
All right, see you next week.
Adios.